Hey, how's it going, guys? Nate here, and Bethesda Game Studios head honcho Todd Howard recently gave an interview with Game Informer at DICE 2016. Now, he gave a lot of interviews while at DICE. However, the big one he gave to Game Informer is particularly important, because he gives us a lot of release dates, time frames, as well as actual game mechanic information that he just didn't put out and give in other interviews. And that exclusive stuff is what we're going to be going over today. The first big statement Todd Howard made was in regards to survival mode, when he was asked the following question. You said you were going to be beta testing survival mode. How is that going to unfold? Howard responded by saying the following. That is going to be different than what we usually do. Survival mode has a lot of changes that can be pretty dramatic. Once we get it honed where it's working well enough, we're going to put it on Steam beta for a while. Here it is, start playing it, give us feedback. It's far easier to update and iterate on the PC. Once we settle on it, then we will release it for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. We want to get it up soon on Steam beta. It's not going to be months and months off. If it's not really working, then we need to iterate on it. It may stay in beta for about a month, depending on what we are changing, but we want to make it have the game feel different. The bits we've done, and me recently playing it, it's absolutely some of the most fun I've had playing Fallout 4. I mean, honestly, it changes it in a good way for me, but it might not everybody. Howard then went on to talk about some of the actual game mechanics in survival, and this is by far one of the biggest pieces of information we've got on the entire subject. So he said, quote, we are doing things like you can't save, it only saves your game when you sleep. You can't fast travel. There are all these diseases. We are trying it all. It's a different experience. We're not trying to make it a ton harder, it's harder because you are doing more things. We want the combat to feel different too, as opposed to you just being a bullet sponge, end quote. And that little paragraph right there, despite its size, is super significant, because he talks a lot about the aspects being added into survival mode that not a lot of people precedented to think about. One of the big things is saving. I think this is the biggest, if not at least one of the biggest changes in survival, because saving is probably my favorite thing to do in Fallout. Before I make any sort of decision or kill anyone that I think might have significant ramifications in my future playthrough, I will always save the game. If I'm faced with like a tough decision like, okay Nathan, you have to send Dogmeat to do this and get killed, or send that guy to do this and get killed, I will always save the game before I make that decision. That way, if I feel like I made the wrong one later, I can revert back to that save and change my mind. Well, that safety net's going to be completely gone with survival mode, and I think that's by far going to be the most difficult thing I have with it. Next up, they talked about how they're removing fast travel. This one I'm a bit more sketchy on, because I feel like that has the potential to become more of an inconvenience than anything else. I really hope they add something like the carriage they did in Skyrim. That way you at least have the option to skip that, you just had to make up the required caps to go on the trip. Because traveling to location across the map can be so tedious after you've done it so many times. It gets repetitive, and I desperately hope they add something similar. Maybe you'll be able to, ride a robot or something, or vertibirds would be a good one too. I know they got vertibirds for the Brotherhood of Steel. I just hope they add something that still allows you to fast travel, maybe just have it added in for a price. He also went on to talk a little bit about diseases and all that sort of thing, things that we already know are going to be added. Altogether, I think this was a pretty informative thing for survival mode, just because of all of the new things we've learned about it. Now we've got a little bit of a window for its release date. As they said, right after it comes out on PC, we can be expecting it to make its release on consoles within maybe about within a month maximum, so I think that's pretty nice. However, that information isn't the only thing we got from Todd Howard at DICE 2016. Next, Howard went on to talk about modding, and I'll read that quote in a second, but the big thing about modding right now, especially on the PC, is that the G.E.C.K, or Creation Kit, still hasn't been released yet. And while there are a few mods on the PC right now, once the G.E.C.K is released, that number will skyrocket, and so will the quality of mods. Because what the G.E.C.K/Creation Kit does is it makes it significantly easier for modders to design and implement new things into the game, such as weapons, armors, new NPCs, entire new locations, quests. All of that stuff is made so much easier to develop when the G.E.C.K is at the modder's disposal. So as a result, the second we see that bad boy released, there is undoubtedly going to be a huge flourishing in modding in the community. So I'm super excited for that. Howard also went on to mention that in the quote, which I will read you now, when Howard was asked the following. When can we expect to see mods, especially on console side? Howard replied saying the following. Our goal is between the first two DLCs. It'll go up at that time on PC in April. All that stuff will go up on PC first. People are beta testing it, and there will be a lag on consoles. We want to get it up on PC and have it work. It'll probably be a good month before it hits Xbox One, and another month before it hits PlayStation 4. So just to clarify, when he says it in reference to PC, he means the G.E.C.K or the Creation Kit. And when he says it in reference to consoles, he means actually making mods available to consoles. I know that might sound obvious, but it took me a little while to understand that. I had to ask people on Reddit actually, but nonetheless, this is pretty cool. We actually got some dates, albeit not incredibly solid, in which we can expect the release of mods on console, as well as the G.E.C.K on PC, which will be coming out in April, followed by, in May, mods releasing on the Xbox One, and in June, mods probably releasing on the PlayStation 4. And albeit these dates are subject to change should things just not go right per se, but either way, I would not be surprised if Bethesda followed through on these release dates. Furthermore, I'm kind of confused what the meaning of the delay is between Xbox One and PS4. They're set a month apart and I don't know why. Perhaps the Xbox One is just easier to do because of its more computer-like architecture, or maybe because it runs this really heavily modified version of Windows. I don't know, but nonetheless, I'm pretty excited to see what these consoles can do in regards to mods. I really hope Sony and Microsoft don't filter and pick and choose which ones console users can and can't use, because that would really soften the experience. I want to be able to do everything, use any mod I want. If it crashes my console, so be it, you know? I want to play, like, entire new location mods. I remember there was one for Fallout 3 that took you to a place in Illinois. I want to go to an entire new location made by a modder on my console. It'll also be cool to see what happens when console players get on their PCs and make mods for their consoles. Because there are going to be people who have PCs and consoles, and they might make mods for the consoles. So to see mods exclusively made for Xbox One and PS4, or at least with them in mind, will be another amazing thing to see. And altogether, I think this is definitely a net positive for just gaming in general, because hopefully other companies will want to follow suit and continue Bethesda's trend that it looks like they're kind of pioneering. There hasn't been mods made available for consoles really ever before that I can recall. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. That's pretty much all the information Todd Howard gave in this interview, although he did mention the Automatron DLC, in which he said it's going to work kind of like Pokemon, where you can kill a robot and then you get their parts to put on your own robot. I don't know. I'm going to admit something. I have never ever won a game of Pokemon. I played it once when I was like maybe 2 years ago. I suck, okay? I don't know anything about Pokemon, so don't quote me on that. He said it, not me. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like if you liked, dislike if you disliked, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye-bye, everybody.